Today's story time, we're going to learn about Esther in the book of Esther. Well, there once was a rich and powerful king whose name was Xerxes. King Xerxes had many wonderful things, but he did not have a queen. Many beautiful women came to meet the queen, and each one would dream that they would become the new queen. They went through months of preparation before they were introduced to the king. One day, the king met a beautiful young woman named Esther. He thought she was the most beautiful woman in all the land. The king knew that Esther would become his queen, but there was much to be done before she could be crowned. It nearly took a year for everything to be finished. During this year, Esther stayed at the palace. Until then, she had lived with her cousin Mordecai. He had raised her and loved her very much. Mordecai trusted and believed in God, and he taught Esther to love God too. Finally, the big day came, and the king carefully placed the crown on Esther's head. She was now Queen Esther. Mordecai was very happy, and every day he came to the palace gate to talk to Esther. He wanted to be sure that she was happy and safe. One day, while Mordecai was waiting at the gate for Esther, he heard two of the king's guards talking. They did not like the king, and they wanted to get rid of him, and Mordecai knew he must stop them. He did not want the king to be hurt. He had to get the secret message to Queen Esther. Now Mordecai waited for Queen Esther to come to the gate, and he knew he had to tell her about the guards' plans to hurt the king. And as Esther approached Mordecai, whispered to her, "You must help save the king. Two of his guards are planning to get rid of him. They do not want him to be king anymore." So Esther told the king about the plan that Mordecai had told her. And then she said, "Mordecai warned me of this danger. He wants you to make sure that you are not harmed." The king sent out some of his officers, and they discovered that the Queen Esther was what she said was true, and the king was happy that Mordecai had saved him. The king had a palace servant write these things in a record book just as they happened. Now everyone would know how Mordecai had saved the king. Now later, there was a mean person named Haman. He was given a very important job by the king. He became one of the king's highest officers. To honor Haman, the king made a law for the people in the kingdom to follow. And according to this law, whenever Haman passed, everyone had to bow down to him. Now Haman was very pleased with this new law. It made him feel important when people bowed down to him. But there was one man who refused to bow down to Haman. That man was Mordecai, Esther's cousin. Haman was very angry when Mordecai and all his people would not bow down. Haman knew the king would never let him harm Mordecai for not bowing to him. So Haman came up with a plan. Haman went to the king and he said, "King Xerxes, some of the people in your kingdom, they're bad. They do not obey your laws. You must get rid of them. I will give you money to pay for this." So the king agreed with Haman, and he sent out his men to tell the people of the new law. Oh, Mordecai cried when he heard Haman's horrible plan. This new law meant Haman could get rid of Mordecai and all of his people. All of Mordecai's people were very afraid. Queen Esther learned about Haman's plan for Mordecai, and she was afraid too. Mordecai wanted her to see the king, but the law said no one could see the king unless they were called for, or they might lose their life. Esther knew that she had to try to save her people, so she came up with a plan. Esther stood in the palace hall so that the king would be sure to see her. And the king did see Esther, and he was happy. He motioned for her to come to him. The king said, "If you asked for half my kingdom, I will gladly give it to you." So quickly, Esther replied, "I would like you and Haman to dine with me today." The king was very pleased at this and granted Esther's wish. When Haman ate dinner with the king and queen that night, he was very happy. Haman did not know that Queen Esther was Mordecai's cousin, and at the end of the meal, the king asked Esther if she had any request of him. She said, "I would like to prepare another meal for you and Haman tomorrow." Again, the king granted her wish. So that night, the king could not sleep. A servant brought his record book. "Read to me," said the king. He read the part about when Mordecai had saved the king's life. "How did I thank Mordecai for this?" the king asked. The servant said nothing was done. The next day Haman returned to the palace, and the king asked him, "How would you honor a person who made the king happy?" Haman thought Xerxes was talking about him, and Haman said, "Oh, I would give this person a beautiful robe, put him on a horse, and lead him through the kingdom while someone calls out, 'This person has done great things for the king.'" He said, "Then go find Mordecai and do all these things for him at once." The king ordered Haman. Haman was not happy, but he had to obey the king. By the end of the day, Haman was very angry, but he returned to the palace for his dinner with Esther and King Xerxes. As they finished their meal, the king said, "Esther, if you ask for half the kingdom, I will gladly give it to you." And Queen Esther said to the king, "If you love me, do not harm my people." So the king asked, who would do such a thing? When Esther thought about it, she told the king of Haman's plan. He was so angry that he left the room. Haman asked Esther to help him, but this just made the king more angry. He had Haman taken away, and then the king wrote a new law to protect Esther's people. Queen Esther called Mordecai before her. She said to him, "Our people are safe." The king gave Haman's job to Mordecai, and everyone celebrated. Esther was very brave, and she was glad she risked her life to save her people. For such a time as this, Esther's story is a great story to learn about, and you can find this in your Bible at home in the book of Esther. Have a great day. Bye.